Hit a knot just right. Gave up. Discipline equals freedom.
Yes.
Not truer words have ever been spoken.
Boy.
That's not mine. I don't own AirPods. Nope, I do not own pods. Now, it could be a daughter or a family member that left them here. But I was going to say, I don't own AirPods. I have Beats. I'd rather give my money to Dre. Well, I set out to... Happy New Year, buddy.
Happy New Year.
I set
It's
out
the actual
to,
New Year for us now.
right? I set out to film today, and it just didn't happen, but I got everything ready for it, and then ran down to the shop, and it got a little crazy on me.
Yeah, it looks great in here. We had we had a little cleanup. A little 52 cleanup happened while I was gone.
Yeah.
Looks awesome.
There's still some revision need doing, but it's definitely probably the cleanest it's been ever, maybe.
Man cave looking good.
Yeah. Had I hung all those bows up before you left?
Yeah.
Okay.
Ready for a fresh slate. And you got your giveaway done?
Yeah, first one's done. Second one's Friday.
Second one?
Yeah, I got a second one Friday.
What are you talking about? What's going
Well,
on?
I gave away 10, and they're all one at a time coming here.
Yeah.
So I gave away all the 10 bows, but the first guy's already been here, built it, tuned it, left. He was from Hawaii. Sent me.
He came from Hawaii?
Yeah. Well, so funny story. His family was going to San Francisco between Christmas and New Year's. So he asked if he could run up here before New Year's and he'd just fly from San Francisco instead of having to fly from Hawaii. I'm like, yeah, sure. No worries, man.
And I think you catch a straight flight, did he?
Yeah, it was a direct flight. He came in the night before, spent the night, worked throughout the day, and he got on a flight at 7 back to San Francisco.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he was probably back at his hotel or with family or whatever it was by 10.
You ever been on a plane and had your captain come on and tell you something's not working?
Yeah. Yeah.
Really?
What
Yeah.
wasn't working on yours?
Well, I didn't quite hear what he said, but come to find out it was the flap. We had a flap that decided it wasn't going to work. And our captain just didn't have a very confident voice, so that made me feel
Great.
less at ease. Because we were circling the Spokane airport for like 10 or 15 minutes, and I'm like texting a friend. I'm like, why don't they put this thing down, you know? Mm-hmm. And when they're circling, it's like it's either wind or there's other planes, or it's not good.
Yeah.
And I guess it wasn't good. It wasn't bad. We touched down just fine, but the way he made it sound like it wasn't going to be good. He's like, oh, and there's going to be firefighters there just in case. Put your seatbelts on. It's going to be
really
a rougher landing than usual.
Oh.
And it wasn't even rough at all. Like, we just came down and he had to back throttle more, and you kind of felt yourself pull forward out of the seat. But yeah, I'm naturally not a huge fan of flying.
Oh, neither am I, and I have to fly next week. So thanks for that story. It was just like when I went to San Diego, and Jared Lau shows me this video of a fucking wheel going through a wing when he landed, and I'm like, I have to get on a plane in 3 days. Why are you showing me that?
Yeah, why are you terrorizing me?
Why are you terrorizing me when you drove here, you jerk?
Lyle. Yeah.
Oh, so that had to get your heart going pretty good, though, right?
I don't know. I kind of tuned it out. I figured it wasn't going to be too bad, but it was just kind of annoying. You know, it was my last flight. I also got routed onto a third flight because they skipped a Spokane flight today. So I went to Seattle and then flew back from Seattle, and it was on my final flight. And I was just ready to be
done,
be home free. Yeah.
Yeah, I hear that, man.
End of the trip, end of a flight. It's like, just get this bird down.
Yeah, like just be done. I want to get off. I want to be home. I've done enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, buddy. Well, that's a fun story.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Airplanes. Don't love them.
So how's going to the homeland?
It was good. It's nice, man. It's family time. I always feel like it's a bit of a gray hole. You know, it's like days just kind of mold and mesh together. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Time just goes by kind of slow, and it got me thinking a little bit because I don't talk too much about business. I don't talk too much about productivity because anytime I listen to people talk about those things, I just feel kind of cringy. I don't know. A lot of times I hear those conversations, I feel like people are trying to pump up themselves or justify how productive they might be to themselves. But I'm definitely a fan of routine. It feels good to me. It's how I like to run my day. I mean, the first thing I do in the morning when I wake up is I always have breakfast, and then I'll get started on something. My mornings are always really productive. And when I go home, it's just not that way.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, it just had me reflecting a little bit on like some of the things I do without thinking about because it's just what I do.
Sure.
You know what I mean? But it's good. It's good to catch up with my family. My nephew's 7th grade now, and it's the only nephew I have. So, and I've always been really close with him. And I just spent a ton of quality time with him. We played basketball, lifted weights, and went fishing. And he's into boy stuff, guy stuff, and he's kind of similar to me, and similar interest to what I had when I was that age. So I feel like I can relate to him on a really, really like deep level.
Mm-hmm. Did some cold plunging, I saw.
Yeah, I did 2 cold plunges, none of which were as bad as my very first ever cold plunge, which was in your boy's cold plunge, Joe Rogan's.
Oh yeah.
Because Joe sent a cold plunge to Cam that I believe was his. It was a Morosco Forge one. And then while we were down filming with Cam that one weekend a couple years ago, we all hopped in, tried it out. And in that cold plunge, the water circulates.
Yeah, so you don't get a barrier of
You don't get a
warmth.
barrier of warmth, yeah. And
Yeah.
the other mistake I made was I put my feet on the metal edge of that cold plunge.
Okay.
And I couldn't feel it because my feet are numb. But when I got out, it was like a warm day, and I was on blacktop, and it still took my feet a long time to come back to life.
Really? Mm-hmm. So moral of the story is don't put your feet on anything metal when you're freezing.
Yeah. And after I came out, Cam's wife was like, yeah, we'll usually wear flip-flops or something like that. I'm like, oh, that makes sense. But yeah, so I did one in the small bay that my dad lives on in Little Lake Superior. I guess the surface temp was 38 degrees. And I just kind of went in, laid down. It's shocking. It's cold. But I recovered and got warm much faster. And then we did another one, first of the year, just on the 31st of the year, we were at my friend's party.
Mm-hmm.
And we were like, you guys want to do a cold plunge tomorrow? And everyone's like, yeah, let's go do a cold plunge tomorrow. So first of the year, 2024, we'll do a cold plunge, Lake Superior style. So we went to this local beach. My sister's wind was whipping up the bay.
Yeah.
So not only did we cold plunge, but we like cold plunged in windy waves. So it was cool. It's a good memory. It's one of those things that you'll remember,
Sure.
Yeah.
Sticks with you.
Yeah. And I don't know, when you think about what are the things you're going to remember, it's not sitting on the couch often, right?
Sure.
It's doing something cool. It's doing something unique. And I always try to make sure I do a couple of those things back with the family. So
Yeah.
it was good. And both times when my nephew cold plunged, he like went in, dipped in, got scared, went out, but he had the cojones enough to be like, hey, I got to go do this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going back in. Mm-hmm. And he went back in both times.
Nice.
And so I was proud of him for that.
Oh, boy.
The first time he came out, and he's like, oh, my nuts ache.
Yeah.
And we started laughing. And then my dad independently went in the water of him, had no idea that Jay said that. And my dad went in, came back out, and he's like, oh, man, my nuts ache. So that was funny.
Yeah, they kind of go into shock in that scenario.
Yeah.
Try to go back inside you.
Yeah. Yeah. I swear it's usually bigger than this. So it's cool.
It's really cold out here.
It's nice to be back. It's nice to spend time with friends and family, but I like being productive. I like getting stuff done, and it's just a little harder when you're outside your routine, which is what can make traveling a little tougher.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure. No, I get that.
Yeah. And I did the 20-mile run. Did you know that?
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
How was that?
I don't know. I wanted to do something before the end of the year that was challenging. I told Drew this. So Drew and I typically will try to grab one run a week together. Usually Sunday mornings we'll do a few miles, sometimes more, sometimes as much as double digits, but usually it's like 4, 5, 6 miles. So I was making sure I was running twice a week for 5-6 weeks. My longest run before that was 13, 14 miles. And on my longest run prior, I got detoured and I definitely did like a 2-mile walk in the middle. So I was preparing for this. I knew I wanted to do it. This was like a scenic route. And I wanted to do one hard thing before the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And this was that for me. And I didn't pick a day because I knew it was going to kind of be weather dependent.
Sure.
But that is kind of weird when you do it that way because you leave yourself more flexibility than you might want. You know, like it's almost better to have a day picked out. You're like, I know this is the day.
Yeah, just deal with it.
So I had like 3 or 4 or 5 days while I was home, just running, doing different stuff. And I was like, I knew the next day was the day I had to do it. And I wasn't feeling the best. I wasn't feeling the worst. And I was like, well, I'm going to wake up. I'll do it. And I woke up. First mile was kind of like a slow uphill grind, maybe, I don't know, up a small slope, enough that you feel it.
Mm-hmm.
And then after I got that first mile done, the next 9 felt amazing. And I wasn't trying to push it because I know from previous experience, pushing it, I would hit a wall and then it's hard to recover from.
Sure.
So I wanted to go slow, be conservative, and I felt great for like 9 miles. And then I got a Gatorade from my dad, drank a 32-ounce Gatorade, and I felt a little cramp in my legs. And I didn't know if that was from drinking the Gatorade or from not enough of something else that I needed. And I had to go up this long, slow hill. Like the worst part of the run was at like the 10 to 12 mile mark. It was like a pretty good uphill.
Mm-hmm.
And I got over that. I just went slow slog up the hill, got over that, felt okay. I was actually pretty happy with how that went. And then at like 12, I hit that wall. It was difficult. 12, 13, 14, difficult. And I walked probably 1.5 miles in there. And then I got my feet back under me. I had some momentum. And I got another Gatorade at 14 miles, drank it. And again, the same thing happened. I felt a little cramp. Felt a little cramp in my legs. And I don't know. I'm just thinking about it, and I'm not sure if that was, am I missing something? Should I had more electrolytes, different version of electrolytes? What was it? I don't know. Anyway, so I'm just a little curious if it was the nutrition side of things that I was bonking from, or just couldn't run more. I don't know. I had someone reach out to me via Instagram and say that you can actually do a lot with your nutrition on those longer runs. They make a huge difference. So I think there's something to be learned from that. Mm-hmm. But I was able to get to 20 miles, which was my goal. Mm-hmm. It was a long, slow slog. It took me 5 hours to do 20 miles. And it was just something I was glad I did, you know. I felt at 20 miles I could have made it to 26. Mm-hmm. But it just would have been like a shuffle getting there. And I wasn't really interested in doing it that day.
Gotcha.
But looking into the future, I would like to do one marathon just to say I've done it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's definitely a good goal to have. Long distance running is probably a wise thing for somebody who likes to do what we do to do anyhow. It's been something I've thought about a lot that I probably need to spend a decent amount of time doing. I just have such a hard time justifying the time for
a lot of time. Yeah.
It's so much time, and I don't have so much time, man. I mean, when you're down to the last, like the first half hour and the last half hour of your day and you're answering emails, and that's what you're doing to unwind because that's all you've got left. Like I don't know where you fit it in my crazy life, but I know I need to.
Yeah.
It may have to be shorter, like faster running and shorter amounts of it or something because of the amount of time it would take you to run 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 20 miles. Like, I don't know what I could do that I would feel super productive and help alleviate some of the things that I need to do every day in that. But man, it's definitely something that you're only going to benefit from doing. So
well,
kudos to you for doing it.
I'm still don't consider myself to be a runner, but trail running is something I've grown to enjoy. Mm-hmm. And because we live close enough to that hill,
yeah,
that's the reason I do it, is because I can go run that hill with Drew. My joints don't ache from trail running. my joints will ache from running on pavement.
Oh, sure. The ground's a lot harder. You're gonna struggle a lot more on pavement or concrete or what have you, hard surfaces running than you would on dirt and gravel.
And there's so much more variation in your footsteps, the uphill, the downhill, plus the scenery, the nature, the time outdoors. I really appreciate it.
Well, and your muscles are all triggering different, right? You do all that rotational different things. You're firing different parts of your muscles. I imagine you're getting a much better workout, and you're probably feeling less fatigue overall because you're working your body differently throughout that.
And your eyes, like you have to watch your feet, at least on parts of the run. So I feel there's like another layer of, it's more engaging in that way for me.
Gotcha. For sure, man. No, that's very admirable. I need to do it. I really do.
Yeah, that's cool. We have that local hill. That's a good spot you can do any size loop you want on it. You know what I mean? You can make it big or small.
Yeah, I've been up there a couple times. That's a good little area. There's a lot of variety of things you can do.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. Maybe one of these days I'll have to run up there with you.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Have you make fun of me?
How'd your holidays go?
Can I say shitty ironically? I got really sick. There was a virus going around Spokane that I think you missed it of when it was bulk coming through, but I got I think it was an intestinal infection, and I couldn't eat. I was going to the bathroom every 45 minutes. I missed like the week going up to Christmas. I didn't work from Monday afternoon till Thursday night. And you know me. It's a long time. The first Athens Bow we got in because I kept getting messages about that, and then I released that video, and there's a couple of comments complaining about I'm not ecstatic, and I'm like, I'm sorry, I'd been sick for 4 days straight when I filmed that. I apologize, but I needed to get something out, and then the next, I think Friday I actually went to work, and I tried to go to work Thursday, but Doug looked at me and he's like, "You need to go up to your house. You're not going to get me sick." I'm like, "Dude, I can't still be contagious at this point." And he's like, "I don't care. I'm like, do you want me to leave?"
Especially
like,
on the holidays, right?
Yeah. He's like, "Do you want me to leave?" He's like, "Yeah." I was like, "All right, I'll go be productive at the house. Then stay away from people." But so I worked Friday and then Saturday. So I have my daughters on Christmas Eve and my ex-wife gets them on Christmas. So our Christmas is Christmas Eve. So that's a day earlier that it has to be done for everything. And we did, the day before Christmas Eve was Sunday. So Saturday and Sunday, I probably pulled like 18-hour days back to back, trying to get everything done. Cause I was going to be working all this stuff all through the week. Cause we had to gut out the entire man cave and have tables and chairs for 36 people coming from a whole side of my family.
That's a big. Yeah,
that's my dad's side of the family. So him and my aunt took turns every year. Like 1 year we'd go over to my aunt's, and then 1 year they'd come over to my dad's. And after he died, it was really important to me that continued. So I took charge of that. So it put a lot on my plate, but it was needing to be done, and as well as I was trying to do my bow giveaways around Christmas, so it was kind of Christmas themed. And tried to squeeze all that in there. And by the time it hit Christmas Eve evening, and there's 36 people in here, and I just got done cooking 14 flank steaks and a bunch of clams and all this stuff. Me and my cousin Justice do most of the cooking and prep and cutting them all up. I sat down, and it's the first time I'd sat down in the entire day. It was like 7 o'clock at night, and I couldn't hardly eat, and I felt like dog shit, and it came back. And I spent the next several days. I still Something that probably should have taken like 4 or 5 days to run its course took almost 2 weeks to get out of my system. I finally, 2 days ago, felt normal.
Come back to full health.
Pretty close, like dang close. And today is the first day I really actually have my whole appetite back. I think there was, 11 days or 12 days I couldn't eat more than a meal, and there was half of those I couldn't even eat half a meal. Like I'd take a quarter portion of what I would normally eat, and that was all I could do, and just couldn't eat. So I'm sure I lost some weight, and I was real weak. But I'm finally like, this week I feel normal, and it's nice because I was starting to wonder if I was ever going to feel normal because it was taking so dang long to run through my system. But,
What was your summary or your thoughts on the Athens Bow?
I like the fact that they're still running higher brace heights when most bow manufacturers aren't. I appreciate that they're doing that. I think the system that they've devised works well. I think it functions well. I can't speak for how well it's going to hold up or durability because it just hasn't been out that long. And I was to preface that, I was very nervous when Bowtech came out with theirs because I was worried about its durability. So I'm worried about the exact same thing I was worried about with the other system, right? Which has been incredibly well held up. It's very durable. But outside of that, it looks like it functions in a very similar fashion and should achieve the same thing, the same goal. So I'm relatively excited about it. The speeds are definitely a bit to be desired. But you're getting a higher brace height bow and a very forgiving, smooth draw. So you're not buying a fast bow in that scenario. You're just not. And they might have been the slowest bows I tested this year, but they're also the highest brace height bows that I tested. So in theory, they should probably be the slowest bows I tested. But in comparison to the Elite Ethos had a 7-inch brace height and
6 3/4.
6 3/4. That was the highest one out there, I think, that of everything we tested, with the exception of like the RX8 Ultra. And it is, I think, 10 to 15 feet slower than the Elite, which I'm just trying to give comparable brace heights here. I'm not picking one out for any reason other than that.
And for someone who hasn't heard the term brace height or why it's important, tell them about that.
So the brace height is the measurement from the grip to the string, and the higher that number is, typically the more forgiving the bow is. There's a lot of variables that go into making a bow forgiving, but the general rule is the higher that is, the easier the bow is to shoot, or more forgiving that it is. Now, in this day and age where bow manufacturers are making really short limbs and really straight risers, they've tended to gravitate closer to 6 because they think they can get away with it because everything's less amplified in this long riser, short limb, very parallel design age, that it's just not as picky.
And speed is sexy too. So when
speed is sexy, but I really prefer to not shoot a bow that's just 6 inches. I prefer it to be above 6 personally. So I really like that part of it. They do have a fully transferable warranty. I need to contact them and verify it because I had multiple people point out on my video that, hey, they come with gas strings, but the strings did not say gas on them. They said Athens, like if you looked at them. Now, they may be putting Athens labeled shrink wraps on them from gas.
Private labeling for Athens.
Yeah, but no, they were before. I just don't know if they still are or not. So I didn't clarify that. I know they were last year. I don't know if they are this year or not. But it looked like a good string, and it looked very similar. So I'm assuming it probably is. But I didn't clarify that beforehand. The machining work is clean. It's not elaborate. It's relatively clean, though. Their front pick and rear mount IDS, they don't have a specific integrated V-bar bracket. But outside of that, I mean, they're offering a lot of features that a lot of the big dogs are. And a tunability of an Allen wrench adjustment on a cam is my preference. Like, if you can make something that does that, my only concern with it, and I mentioned it in the video, is whether or not it was a patent violation, because it's awfully similar. And the only reason I preface that, I am not picking on them. So if anyone's going to sit there and complain about me picking on them, I'm not. I would have thought that if it was that easy to get around the patent, because there's nothing like crazy hard about what they did, I would have thought a bigger player would have done it, because the bigger players are getting beat up on it, right? they're getting beat up on the fact that there's a lot easier tuning systems out there. And it's not something that has not been addressed or discussed amongst the community and them, or myself and them. Like, we've had conversations about it. They know it's a problem. They know they need to address it right now. And I'm talking, the biggest players in the game. And if it was that easy to get around it, I'm surprised one of them didn't do it. So that's the only reason that I preface whether or not this is going to be an infringement. They're very clear. Their patent attorney does not think it's an infringement in any way. So they went forward with it, and they've been working on it for a while. And hats off to them to bringing something to market that works in that way, because there's not a better way to tune a bow. It's a really cool system. I just hope it doesn't end up in a big, long legal battle that causes either of those companies problems, right? Because it is. I would love nothing more than to see that type of technology be available to everybody, because that makes tuning a bow so simple, so easy enough a guy at home can feel comfortable doing it, and that's what I want. I want everybody to feel comfortable enough to do this stuff themselves, and it's not to drive the business out of the pro shop. It's to make you more confident in your equipment and your gear and your ability to understand what it's doing. That gets more people in the sport. I was having a conversation with a guy that comes in the shop today that had bought a press and started doing it himself about 4 years ago. And now he's got a whole group of people that they take their bows to him, and he puts them together and works on them. They're mostly family, but some friends. And I said, hey, how many people have gotten into the sport because you did this? He's like, several. Like, exactly. That's the whole point, is if you start working on your own bows and become somewhat of a knowledge base that's maybe more approachable than the whole pro shop and the big mystique of the people standing behind the counter that people get intimidated by, you're more likely to feel like you have an outlet. You're probably going to get a little bit more knowledge. You're going to get more comfortable with the sport, and you're going to bring other people into the sport because of the depth of understanding that you have. It's always what I believed. And it is happening, and it's happening a lot. And I just want to keep it going that way. So the more bow manufacturers put things out that the average guy can easily work on, the more you're going to see that.
Well, and it's like knowledge is power too.
It is.
It's a good thing, and it scares people. There's a little insecurity that's like, oh, they won't need us. They will always need an expert. It allows the expert to do things that are more expert driven.
Exactly.
Right? So you don't have to tie on 25 D loops a day.
Yeah. Well,
right? You can teach people to shoot a bow better, because that is an expert skill.
Yeah. And if you authentically are going to lose your business because somebody else understands how to work on a bow, you're not an expert. You're just crude. No offense. I'm sure there's going to be some people that get hurt by that, but that's the reality of it. If you don't have knowledge beyond that basic knowledge that the average guy is going to pedal with, you're screwed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. It just allows more time for the experts to be experts. So I've watched similar things happen in other industries, and it's a good thing. It
is. Stop being afraid of it, shop owners. Don't be afraid. It's going to work out better. I promise you. I know it doesn't feel like it, but it really will.
Change is scary.
Embrace it.
Yeah, change is scary.
Yeah.
That's the way it is, but with change comes growth.
If you want your sport to grow, educate the people in your sport. You will grow. Educate your local community. Educate the guys that come into your store. Teach them something. Get their mind to expand a little bit, and then they dive deeper down that rabbit hole, and then they understand more. They feel a little smarter about it, and they're more likely to talk about it, more likely to discuss it.
And buy more stuff.
Along the way.
Because now they need a press. They need serving material.
And maybe you don't get every sale, but if the guy's spending more money in the sport, by proxy, you're going to get more business. If he gets more people in the sport, they're more likely to buy more stuff. There's more customers for you. Encourage it. Please encourage it. It's done wonders for my business.
And then if a person gets to a position where they can solve every single tuning problem, they are probably top couple percent expert. But nobody's going to solve it. Most people aren't going to solve every single tuning problem.
Yeah.
Right? They're still going to come in.
There's always, I don't know if I've ever had somebody go away completely.
No, they don't go away.
Well, they're never going to work on it enough to know how to fix everything. They're still going to need your help. They're still going to call you and ask you a question. They're still going to come down to your shop, buy 3 pieces of something, and then probably ask you a question while they're there. But if you like encourage them instead of discourage them, they're way more likely to use you as a resource. And if they're using you as a resource, they're going to value the fact that you're there, and they're more likely to spend their money with you. It's like, hey, maybe I got to pay $5 more from Frank over here, but Frank's helps me. Frank helps me learn. So I'm going to buy it from Frank. You know, that people appreciate those things more than you think. Like they really do. I can't I can't tell you how many emails and messages I answer that are just thank you. Like, thank you for what you're doing. I've learned so much. That would be the shop owner. If he would just share and tell and teach, you're going to get a thank you. I learned so much from that. Mm-hmm. And that's you're going to get so many people that feel an obligation to spend their money with you because they learned from you. I get those same ones. I get frequently ones that follow it up with, and I buy all the parts that I need from you. If you sell it, I buy it from you because I appreciate what you're doing. Well, if a shop owner was doing the same thing, he'd get the same response.
That's right.
You know,
yeah.
Just teach them. Teach them, make them smarter, make them better, get more people in the sport.
Teach them to fish.
We have a window, yes. Yeah, you can either give a man a fish or teach a man to fish. Mm-hmm. Teach a man to fish, he fish for the rest of his life. But we have a small window here. We really do, in my opinion, of growing this sport drastically to have a chance that it's actually around how it looks today.
Well, and I think a little bit of a perfect storm is culminated, too, with, you know, a guy like Joe Rogan being an advocate for the sport. Largest platform there is, largest media platform there is. Mm-hmm. And, you know, that makes waves.
It does.
Yeah.
It really does. We've had several things. Like when you turn around.
too. Yep.
Yeah. Well, but when you turn around and look at that, how many people has Joe Rogan turned around and involved in the sport that wouldn't have anything to do with it? And Haynes, with what he's doing, there's so many people that weren't in the sport that are trying it, right? I mean, it's those people that bring that outside influence. That the biggest problem the sport's always had is there's no money in this sport that's not from this sport. You know, golf didn't get big because golf companies put money in golf. It's because they get sponsors that are not golf related.
Yeah, insurance companies love to sponsor golf.
Insurance companies, vehicles, you name it, right? We don't really get that in archery. And if we get enough people from outside of this community participating in this community, then the money from those people filter back in. The companies that they're involved in might go, hey, we should sponsor that. This is a great thing, right? We have this very, very unique opportunity right now. The mindset that people have, the focus that people have, we got a chance, a real chance to drastically grow this sport. And that's not going to happen by nitpicking and whining and bitching about hunting opportunities and things like that. Like, you can't take that stance.
Yeah.
You have to look at the bigger picture and want to involve as many people as you can in this hobby, or this hobby won't exist. You know, go back into Europe and go bow hunting. Oh, you can't? Why can't you? It's because that hobby doesn't exist anymore. Because they didn't have enough people fighting to keep it.
Yeah.
And the percentage of people that bow hunt, I hate to tell you this, isn't enough. And I should revert that. It's not the percentage of people that bow hunt. It's the percentage of people that hunt. We are all together. Period. I don't care if you're slingshot hunting. You're a hunter. Mm-hmm. And you're my friend and you're my ally. And we need to all think like that.
Yeah, I agree.
We have to, 1,000%. Because if there's an anti-hunter that thinks that you shouldn't hunt wolves over here and an anti-hunter that thinks that you shouldn't hunt deer over here, those two sons of bitches are holding hand in hand with everything they do. They're not fighting about it. We fight about it. And that needs to stop. And it needs to stop now. Or we're never going to have a prayer against that group because they're so driven together to do the same. They really are.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very well said. It's like a scarcity mindset thing, right?
It is. So, I mean, I have the conversation with people in the shop regularly that are just frustrated about hunting opportunities and it's not as good. And they're mad at people that are, well, I've had 3 or 4 people that are pissed at Dan. That literally, like, that are just because he talks about it so openly and shares so much stuff publicly. And it frustrates those people that might be hunting in the same area or that sort of thing. And they get upset. And you're like, but you're missing the picture here. The whole reality of this is there's more people doing it.
More people doing it.
And that's what we need. Yes, your hunting opportunities need to suck. And Lyle said it best. Hunting needs to be harder. It does. It needs to be harder. And I don't like that reality any more than the next person, but it's the reality we're faced with. Do you want this to be around still? Do you want to have opportunities at some point? If you came to me today and said you can't hunt for the next 5 years, but I can guarantee 3 generations beyond you will be able to bow hunt, I'd do it. How can you say that? How many of you would do that? I'd give it up for 5 years to guarantee my grandchildren can do it. It's going to take that kind of mindset. It's going to take personal sacrifice of the things that you want to be able to ensure that your grandkids can do it. So I don't know the best way to solve that problem or how to make sure that it happens.
Well,
but I want it to happen.
Yeah, I can't speak to exactly how hunting pressure changes for certain people because that's unique to their area or whatever. And only they would know, right?
True.
But what I do know is that the good hunters I know still go fill their tags. And they fill the same tags they've been filling for years because they're good at hunting. And when their plan doesn't work out, they're creative. They have backup plans. They understand how to follow sign and how to look for the things that hold animals. And their system continues to work because they're good at hunting. So if you're not getting, you're not having the success you want, I would just encourage you not to think about the spot, but think about the system.
Sure.
How could you use your knowledge to find those same variables elsewhere?
Yeah.
Right? There's a reason there were animals in your spot, but it's not the only spot. And I understand how frustrating it can be to lose a spot. That sucks.
Sure.
It's near and dear to every hunter.
Oh, yeah.
We love having spots.
We've all experienced it, too. If you've hunted for at least 5 years, you've lost a spot that was good.
Justin, our shop manager, wouldn't even tell me what unit, what part of Idaho he hunted in.
Do you want to know? I know.
I know.
He wouldn't tell me, but I figured it out.
I know now. Well, I kind of force-fed figured it out, too, but he wouldn't even tell me what not the,
I was like, you cried at my dad's funeral, and I held you while you cried, and you're not going to tell me where you're hunting?
Yeah, I don't care. I'm not looking at, but that's how hunting can be, right?
It's very much so.
I understand why, but I still keep observing good hunters fill their tags. It just requires maybe thinking outside the box.
Yeah, 90% of the game's harvested by 10% of the hunters. That's a known fact. It's reality. It's because by the time you eventually get into that 10%, you're successful all the time. But it takes a long time to get into that 10%, and the majority of people quit before they get there. But the same people are successful over and over and over, and it's because, well, one, there's a percentage of people that are just killers, in my opinion. There's no way around that. I don't know where I fall in that, but I'd like to think I'm in that because just things just work right, and it's a revision of knowledge, of time and experience, and it's also your ability to not freak out in the moment. And more people freak out in the moment than not, too. That's got a lot to do with it.
Yeah, that's a very big pressure-loaded situation.
Yeah, I've seen that a lot in my life of people not being able to handle the moment and black out, like Joel would say. You black out.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so it's that's somewhat environment, that's somewhat time, that's somewhat experience, but I think a large percentage of the failure is an inability to handle the moment, because it's a big moment, whether you realize that or not.
It's a really big moment.
It is.
You know what's a far less stressful moment? Making a 3-foot putt to win a bet. Most men will fold up when you give them a 3-foot putt to win a bet.
Yeah,
it's a putt you should make. It's a gimme in most situations, but
it's a layup, right?
Yeah. It's a free throw. It's not a layup; it's a free throw, and it happens. People have a hard time managing stress, and I don't know even really where you start coaching that other than exposure. Exposure to that stress in environments is a big deal.
I think in general, the only way you learn how to do that is by doing it. And doing it again and doing it again and forcing yourself into that situation as often as you can, as frequently as you can.
Yeah.
If you're going to handle pressure, you need to be in pressure a lot. It needs to be a normal environment for you. So, hence 10% harvesting 90. How many times is that 10% in that situation? Right? A lot. Mm-hmm. And they managed to close the deal every time. So that's a big deal. No different than, winning a tournament on a line where there's 6 of you standing there shooting off for the final. Like, there's a reason that the people that are good at that deliberately put themselves in that environment over and over and over and over and over. It's like what they're doing with the leagues down there now is you used to just shoot your score and go home, but now anybody who wants to, you shoot your score and then you rank off and then you shoot against each other until you get all the way through.
Yeah.
So you're forcing yourself to shoot against somebody every night, no matter what.
Yeah. I had my first league night a couple weeks ago. It was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. All those shoot offs and many it's not like, because the way we're doing it, we're shooting up. Yeah. So if you're doing it over and over again.
Yeah. So you get put in that situation again.
Many little battles to help win the war or whatever.
Right?
Yeah.
And every one of those is your opportunity to deal with that adversity and how it feels. And it's an uncomfortable feeling. But strive to be uncomfortable. Like, that's just the reality of it. Feel the pain, feel the discomfort.
And then at some point you learn to sift your way through that.
At some point it doesn't bother you nearly as much. You'll always feel it, but it won't affect you. It'll just be something that you feel because it finally gets to the point that it feels normal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a good thing.
Yeah, it is.
Have you launched your APA video yet?
I haven't filmed it yet.
Oh, you haven't filmed it?
Yeah, I was going to try to do that one next. I could, dude. When we filmed the Athens video, I had to go to the bathroom 4 times. And I finally I was like, it's done. Just leave, dude. I'll edit it and be done with it. I couldn't. So APA, we will film tomorrow. But we did play with it a little bit. And it's fast. Like, it's legit fast. And
does it feel fast?
Yeah. Oh, no. Like, it does, but it doesn't. It does not have vibration like I thought it would. It's really pretty incredible. Oh, speaking of vibration, there's been multiple people who commented on my videos that my vibration tool is measuring the draw cycle and not the shot. And after I did the Athens test, I'm pretty convinced that's the case because I felt way more vibration in it, but it ranked really low, and that bow breaks over really gently into the back wall. So I'm what I think it's doing is I think it's recording the first vibraty thing it feels, and then stopping recording. So what I'm going to have, what we're going to experiment with tomorrow is I'm going to draw the bow back and have somebody else hit record on it and then fire it once it is a draw, and see if I get a lot different result. And I think I'm going to.
I bet you that'll make it more consistent.
Oh, for sure. And I'll have to go through and retest everything and then go change the numbers. Because if that's true, then all those vibration numbers are bullshit. They're not even remotely accurate. And I gotta correct that. I won't be comfortable leaving that alone. So I'll end up going through and reshooting every single bow, testing it that way. I won't film all of it, or I might film one video where I'm plumbing through them and then publish the results at the end of it and say, okay, here was all the different vibration readings we got. Use it however you want. But I am convinced after that one, because it was so noticeable. They're like, how in the world did that hit a 6? That doesn't make sense. And I'm not trying to knock it. I just going, there were ones that felt really smooth that were down that low and you could tell. And then ones that were like, that doesn't seem right. But it's what the tool says. So, okay, here we go. So I'm thinking that's what's going on. So we'll see. Hopefully I can start. I won't be able to do that till I get back from the trade show, because the trade show is next week. But I will start filming that after that when I get back. And I just need to film and edit way more. Like, I'm gonna have so much stuff. I'm gonna have to go back to putting out 4 or 5 videos a week. I think there's just too much to do, and I'll never get done with any of it. I mean, I've got to go through all those giveaways, which I'm only gonna record a couple of them. I'll take snippets and stuff, or make like some shorts or reels or something out of them as I'm going throughout the day, just so there's some daily content. But just all the stuff I need to do that's never gonna get done. So I just got to start doing one a day. And it's going to kill my algorithm and all that junk, but it drives me nuts. I have way too much to put out. Just way too much.
It's good for the people.
Well, that's why I do it. That's what I care about. It's just it's obnoxious that there's just so much to do. It really is. And we're freaking busy, and we're going to have more people travel this year. I guarantee we're going to have more people travel this year than we ever have, because those lifts are so popular and so behind. Like, every person that's test firing a bow is buying that bow. We've sold 3 of them every day minimum, every day. And we're getting in, roughly 3 a day, and we're selling out 3 every day. Now that's going to get a little better because I've had so many orders in the pipe that I'm going to start getting larger quantities of them, because it'll get caught up to the timelines where they belong.
Yeah.
But I'm going to run a promotion once I do. I'm convinced I'm doing that. I'm going to run a big travel promotion for people willing to fly or drive. I'll give them a little something extra, or give them some incentive to be able to do it, because so many of you are going to go down to your shop and go, hey, I want to try that bow. And you're like, wow, I love it. When can I get one? They're going to tell you June. They're going to tell you July. They're going to tell you August, and it's January. Like, that's ridiculous. So we'll see if old Unky Josh can hook you up a little bit, see if I can do something for you to make it more worth your while to come out here, or help curb some of the cost of doing it. But I guarantee you for sure we are going to experience that like we never have. It's going to be better. It's going to be more travel than COVID, because just no one's going to have them.
Yeah, well, it's going to be a great year. We have a lot of great bows lined out. Personally, I got my bow. We got to get it built up. It's going to get built up any day now. It's picked out. We already talked about that. Bowtech Core SS. That'll be my hunting bow. But I'm going to do a lot more in the mid-range and budget area, because for a couple of reasons. I want to see more people get into the sport.
Yep.
And it was really fun when I did that last year as well.
Well, it's definitely something that we've identified as a problem. Like, there's just not a lot of information out there.
Yeah, it was fun. I mean, it's fun to say, hey, how accurate can I make this thing?
Yeah.
Do you really want to spend a couple $1,000s to get 1 or 2%? Which is often what happens, is you end up spending a lot more to gain a little.
Yeah, no, I agree.
A Lamborghini is not that much faster than a Tesla or whatever.
Sure.
But you spend a lot more to get a little.
Hold on. Is it even faster
It's
than a Tesla?
not anymore.
If you got a plaid Tesla, you're going to crush a Lambo. Isn't that like the fastest thing you can buy?
It's like anything. When you start getting to the upper tiers, you got to spend a lot to gain a little.
You got to spend a lot to gain a little.
But I want to find out, like, where is the sweet spot for value versus cost?
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, I think we can figure that out.
It's something we're going to grind on. Anyway, guys, we're going to wrap up this podcast. Kind of losing my voice. Subscribe wherever you're listening to this. Leave it a review. We got good momentum in that department, and every little bit counts. So
for sure.
Leave this thing a review. If you want to buy some archery stuff, I have a discount code with Josh's website. It's just TimC. Get you 10% off of the stuff you wouldn't even think it would. And it's going to be a great year. You got anything you want to close with?
If you are serious about buying a lift, figure out what you're doing and figure it out in the next month, because you're going to find out you can't get one. And there's a lot of upset people about that already. Like, they're getting beat up pretty bad amongst their dealers. So yeah, it's gonna be a difficult year for that. So I probably wouldn't wait till March to go down and try out bows and figure out which one you want. If you're in the market, just do it now. Don't screw around.
That's good advice, period. A lot of people wait till March, May, June, September, because they know they're not hunting to the fall. Go get your freaking bow, get it tuned, get it broadhead tuned, and be ready to rip for the spring. Book yourself a spring hunt.
Right.
Spring archery hunting's awesome. The earlier you get that bow in your hand, the more you shoot it this year, the more competent you will be in the fall.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Good thing to end on.